Alrighty, everyone. Hello, hello. I have adjusted my sound, and hopefully this time my sound's not cutting out. We are here today, as it is in the holiday season, with a pre-recorded segment, and I am very excited to be talking to you today in your past with my guest Samuel Branch. Hello, Samuel. Great to have you on today.
Hello. Yeah, absolutely. Ecstatic to be here.
Yeah. Who is, as the Twitter handle below his lovely face says, with plot hooks.
Yes.
Plot hooks creates a lot of lovely content. But Samuel, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Kind of like, I don't know, briefly how you got into creating or whatever else feels right to say.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the founder and director of Plot Hooks. Not the only person that it does anything around here, but I'm the person that kind of directs a lot of the projects and different things that goes on. We started this about 2 years ago as a creative network dedicated to the art of collaborative storytelling. Whenever I was looking around for podcasts, and this is kind of the onus for the whole creative network, so I was looking around at podcasts and all the D&D content that I was consuming. There's a ton of excellent shows about GM tips, DM tips, all sorts of great actual plays, great shows like this one, interviewing creators and stuff like this. But there's not as much, there's some, but there's not as much that's focused on the specific aspect of storytelling. And really what we started as, it was a podcast that was a storytelling podcast masquerading as a D&D podcast. So we're not just trying to give different ways that you can utilize rule systems or stuff. There's some of that, but we wanted just to kind of start as a a network which was trying to help us included everyone just be able to tell the best stories that we can, because collaborative stories are amazing and powerful, and we really wanted to just dive into that. And so it just kind of grew from there, from a podcast to a lot of written content to Patreon stuff, DMs Guild stuff, Kickstarter launching soon, which I know we'll talk about later. So yeah, it's just kind of all ballooned from there. It's been a crazy last couple of years.
Ooh, boy. Yes,
In
it
more ways
has.
than one.
Yeah, no, all around. Yeah, so really the focus there that you all have is on the narrative aspect, which I think you kind of raised a good point there, in that that's not something that a lot of the GM tips, DM tips, whatever world building really focuses on. They're more on, like, if it's a D&D focused podcast, like, you know, how do you do the mechanics to make the story do what you want? Whereas I feel like with you all, it's more like, how do you tell the story that you want to in a way that feels natural?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a little bit of a difficult topic, and one that we always, you know, we give things to think about or things to consider as you're going through, because that's one of those things that there is no one set answer. I mean, if you want to talk about a particular way that a particular rule works, I mean, of course you can always homebrew something, but if you look at the player's handbook or the dungeon master's guide, it's just like there is an answer.
Yeah,
There is
you've got
an
your
official
you got your
this is how
rules
this
as written
works.
and rules as intended. You might have
Yeah.
you might have two versions of it, and that's it. But yeah. So I mean, anyone could see if you go on and you just look at their podcast titles. The focus is very much on, like, how do you bring in these different elements, organized crime, gothic horror, urban environments, prehistoric storytelling, which I imagine involved a lot of campfires, steampunk, ecology, Feywild, consequences, not punishment, all of that stuff. And then, of course, there is the podcast episode simply titled Disaster Hamsters, which I'm sure has to do with the product that you've released of the same name. Um, so let's just kind of dive right in a little bit to Disaster Hamsters and talk a little
Sure.
bit about, yeah, some of the stuff you all have made. So, Disaster Hamsters is a fully fledged adventure. It's 50 pages in the regular version. Um, and 61 pages in the accessible version. So there is a lot going on there. And let me see if I can get the cover image pulled up right here over
Sure.
my face. I sure can. All right. So what exactly is Disaster Hamsters aside from an adventure for the world's greatest role-playing game?
Well, it is it's kind of spurred based off of just the title. A lot of the way that I create is building. I take a idea and I just keep lumping stuff on top of it. And initially just started with the fact that I initially noticed that the words disaster and hamster kind of sort of rhyme, and it eventually just kind of morphed into an idea to create a D&D adventure where the party plays as sentient hamsters. And so we ran with that concept. I had a great team of Holly Wake, Ken Hart, Star Shinobi. Dire Quest was our artist. Nick Galvin, also known as Scry Society, um, was our battle map maker, and we just
All
ran with
right.
that idea and
So
made a product.
yeah, important question though. What came first, the cover image or like, you know, the rest of the story? Cover image again. Let me pop that back up because I've zoomed in on it for everyone to see. Look at these hamsters. Look at their little swords and stuff. Um,
The
this
story did come first. Yes, the story came first, and which is actually why in the background, way in the back, you can actually see Snuggles, which is kind of one of the main villains, so to speak, which is a displacer kitten. You can see his silhouette kind of lurking in the background on the table of the cover,
So it's
and
over here for everyone. Not yeah. There you go.
so we knew to include things like that whenever we were finalizing the product. And Dire Quest did a great job with that cover. Yeah, it just places your party into the bodies of hamsters. There's a variant ending which essentially allows you to drop it into an existing campaign where you can have your actual regular characters put into hamster bodies by the main villain of the story, and then
Did they
throughout
did they accidentally drink the poison? The poison for Cusco?
they it's not specified. It's the adventure starts with them in the cage, waking up as their old selves. Well, their old selves in hamster form.
Mm.
So unsure exactly how they initially got there, other than a particular apparatus which they have to ultimately find and reverse if they
All
want to
right.
return to the bodily form.
Well, obviously there. My suggestion for all of the would-be DMs out there wanting to run this is you gotta come up with your own version of Yzma and Kronk and give them the wrong poison, not couscous poison, but you know, uh whatever your character's name is, poison, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. Oops, wrong lever. um
Absolutely.
and that gets you in that cage. And then you start out the thing. There in the cage and you wake up and you're like, "Oh, no. Oh no, something has gone horribly wrong. My paws, they're furry. My paws are paws."
Yep, yep. That's unideal if you're used to having opposable thumbs, but that is a little bit of a fudge line when you're talking about actually being able to hold a sword. But yeah, so you just start out in a cage and you go through. You try to escape the cage, then you try to escape the laboratory, and then you try to escape the whole layer of the villain, which is Jerry Heliot, kind of a mad Eladrin scientist that has been trying to make make sentient woodland creatures and has discovered a way of doing it with hamsters. And You get to interact with all sorts of other sentient creatures, like Cashew the bunny, the aforementioned Snuggles, the Displacer Kitty, Snuggles, evil twin, even more evil twin Scritches, um, Cerise the Phoenix. Lots of just it's just kind it both provides an epic adventure, but also completely knows what it is and does not take itself too seriously. It is goofy. You are
It
playing as a hamster.
it is. It's a very light-hearted, romp. I mean, you're in the cage, and then, you've got this big struggle in the lab, which starts with, oh gosh, the floor is a very long way from the tabletop. Have you ever considered how tall a table is when you're not human-sized? Hmm. Oh, yes. So, obviously, potentially insurmountable obstacle number one is absolutely ridiculous, and it really sets the tone for it. So, you got a lot to go into that. And I think, you've done a really great job putting together something fun here, as evidenced by the fact that Disaster Hamsters is one of your products that's medaled on the DM's Guild. You got that copper medal, and I'm sure you're soaring towards that silver medal. Um, you
Over
know,
halfway to silver now, so we're
yeah,
excited.
yeah. No, that is exciting. And, with a lot of the work that you've done on it, not only making it a fun adventure, having tons of really engaging artwork that really just makes you kind of want to uh, print these out on cardstock and make them into little standees that you just plop on the table. Um, you know, it it is just it's beautifully put together. Your team has worked very hard on it. And not only that, you took the time to go through something not very many creators do, and you created you basically went through and recreated the entire thing as an accessible product
Mm.
in the Open Dyslexia font. So I've got uh, a, s- a shot here of one of the pages in that font. And, anyone who is familiar with like accessible typefaces probably recognizes this right away. The Open Dyslexia font is, oh, I blanked now on the name of the person who created it. Um, Totally new, but you can Google
Yeah.
it. It's on the internet. It
Yeah.
is, it
I
is,
don't remember either.
yeah, it is designed though specifically to help people who have dyslexia from swapping letters around. You'll see it's got the very unique characteristic of how it has a lot of weight in the specific curves and generally on the bottom of words to stop your brain from doing the, ah, it's a U, but I've read it as an N. No,
Hmm.
no, there will be none of that. It is clearly heavier on the bottom and must stay
Hmm.
that way. We can't flip it up, right? It'll just fall back down. It's too heavy. Um, and as we were discussing pre-show, like you can't just switch the font and call it done.
Yeah, yeah. Part of the reality of the open dyslexic typeface and a lot of accessible typefaces is, for good reason, they also have to be bigger. Which you pointed out the difference in the length of the release being 11 pages longer when the accessible version, and that's just because you have to go through and essentially lay out the book again after it's done the first time, because the typeface just doesn't sit on the page in exactly the same way. But it's worth it. It's worth it to go through and make it to where everybody can enjoy it. And you know try to add in different things like alt text and stuff in there as well as best we can. um I still want to go through and retroactively make villagers with an accessible typeface. I have not. I've got that fully uploaded with alt text, but I don't have the accessible typeface with that, and I want to go back and do that because I think that's really important to make sure that um, everybody just gets a chance to enjoy it. I mean, our tagline here at Plot Hooks is everyone could be a storyteller, and we mean that. It's not. It doesn't matter who you are or what you bring to the table or how you came to sit around with your seven dice. It is beautiful to tell stories to go together around that table, and everybody should have access to that as much as humanly possible.
Right.
And so if we can help make that happen, we can. And if there's anything out there that anyone has any suggestions on, or something that helps them out, let us know, and we'll try to do what we can to accommodate as many as we can.
All right, I'm gonna cover your beautiful face for a second just to make this big enough for people to see. I've got the side by side on the two versions, same page, and you can immediately see it is a much larger font. Things have been uh I don't want to say smushed, but we had to straighten out our sticky notes so that it took
Yeah.
up less space.
Yep.
And we've really kind of consolidated and
Margins are smaller.
eliminated a lot of the open white space. So it was a significant undertaking to get that second version out there. And honestly, like, I mean, kudos to your team for taking the time and feeling like it's important enough to have done that. Like that's,
And I
big.
have to give Holly Wake, who's at Manatee Tartan or at Tartan Manatee, depending on which social media platform you're looking at. I have to give her a lot of credit, because she was our accessibility consultant on that project, as well as on Villagers. It's as a person that has very minor chronic illness, like I have celiac disease, and I have like a general anxiety disorder and stuff, but it's, for me, all my things are low lying enough that I don't have enough knowledge of what it's like to interact in a world that is not meant for me.
Mhm.
I still am in a space where things default to who I am as a person, which is not how it should be, but that's how it is.
Right.
And so I need someone outside of myself to be able to help me out and really take charge of that. And Holly was that person on this project, so have to give her full credit
Yeah,
on that.
and great work by Holly there. I mean, uh, you know, most not most people, a lot of people anyways have at least a touch of dyslexia, like myself, but mine is minor enough that I can normally ignore it. My big problem comes in numbers. Uh,
Mm.
did that say, 1854, or was it 1845, or was it 1485,
Yeah.
or oh gosh, I literally just looked at the number. The numbers 1, 8, 4, and 5 are in it. Um, and obviously, the longer the number is, the harder that gets. Which is why, I find myself like I will just like rote memorize long numbers. Like like my credit card number, which, I'm not gonna rattle off any of the numbers I have memorized, because they're all, personal
My
information.
social security number is
Yeah. It's got some zeros in it.
yeah.
Uh,
It does. It
yeah.
does.
Uh, Great, because rattling off social security numbers with zeros, people are always like, "Did you say zero or O?" Because I was
Yeah.
listening for one, and I think you said the other, and now I don't know what you've said at all. I've forgotten the whole thing. Um,
Yeah, I used to do that. My first ever job was in fast food, like a lot of people, and you're sitting there as a cashier and telling people the price, and it's like 1741, and you just say 1471. It's just like you're between your eyes and your mouth. The two numbers got swapped, and people are looking down at the front of your register at the price, and just look back up at you and just hand you the correct amount, and you're just, oh, yep, yep, I said
yeah,
that wrong.
you're like, yes, that is what I meant. Thank you for rolling with it. So yeah, I mean, and it's great that not only plot hooks, but like so many people now are acknowledging that, like, uh, you know, neurotypical people are not the entirety of the planet. Let's, like literally consider anyone who's not ourselves. have you
Oh
have you
yeah,
have you thought about it, everybody?
yeah.
Just for a second. Um,
And
eh,
I would go as so far to say that there's so much complexity and difference in how the human brain works, that there really is no such thing as neurotypical. There is people that are close enough to a certain standard, with massive air quotes, if you're just listening to this in your pocket, standard and massive air quotes, um, that they're lumped into
Hmm.
but really everybody's brain works different in some ways. Like there's no, and then obviously some of us, have ADHD like myself, or or even, yes, hi, squirrel,
That's
squirrel.
me. Raise my hand. I'll raise both hands. Um,
I mean, and then you go further and further afield from normity, again with their massive air quotes. But
yeah. And that is something we could have an entire podcast episode about. But instead, let's just, leave it with, you know, I think that this does an excellent job of making you think outside what it's like being yourself, because suddenly you're hamsters. How is your life if you step into someone else's shoes? And it makes you consider that, like, as an adventurer, and hopefully a little bit, as yourself, your player, your human NPC. um, yeah. So speaking of human NPCs, so the other thing that we had up that you all have worked on, which, as we were discussing, by the time we check it tomorrow on the DM's Guild, should also have a medal.
yeah.
Yeah. Is your supplement Villagers? And no, I did not mispronounce that. It is villagers who may be villains. Um,
Little on the nose
I
for
mean,
our title there, but it works.
maybe. Neither confirm nor deny these spurious accusations. This guy on the cover certainly seems like just a perfectly fine, ordinary, trustworthy human
Hmm.
man. Look how cheerful he is.
Yeah, yeah. And smoking his pipe, talking to his customer. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
that's
he's got all these cheery tattoos. He's got like a sword and a sun, and like, come on. He's even got like, I don't think that's a leopard print vest, but it kind of looks like a leopard print vest.
yeah, definitely has some sort of pattern on it.
Yeah. I'm staring at it now and I'm like, I legitimately have no idea what it's supposed to be. But yeah, I mean he is I mean he's fine. He's fine. He would never be up to no good. Um, but we've got a nice collection here. Nice collection being 75 pages because, why do less when we can do more?
Yes.
Of seemingly normal NPCs to drop into your story, your D&D game, supposedly is what this for. But honestly, I think you could drop these into pretty much anything. Because again, um, with plot hooks, you all are more focused on the narrative. So it's building out these characters. What's going on in their lives?
Yeah. Yeah, and we tried to keep it that way. Other than obviously, each one of them has a stat block, which is specifically to D&D 5e. But I mean, other than the mechanical elements, there's a whole 1 to 2 to 3 page write up, depending on which one, on what the character is, uh, which is unrelated to whatever game system you're playing. Um, but yeah, this is another one just kind of inspired by helping us all tell great stories. It's finding a dearth in the market, which is, there's lots of really powerful creatures and terrifying monsters and things that you fight, but what about the people that have dark secrets, the
Mm-hmm.
people that you come across in the marketplace and interact with as you're just walking through a town with your party, that have something lurking in their basement, which is really sinister. And so it just created for a really interesting compendium of 25 NPCs, which are just
And
hilariously
I
goofy.
I don't really want to ask you to name your favorite child, but is there one of these that you'd want to kind of highlight here so I can pull it up on the screen and we can show
Oh
an
gosh.
example? I mean, you
Um
could just give me a letter of the alphabet if that's easier.
um Goodness, that is so hard. That is my favorite child. Um
You can
You
choose your
can
favorite child today. You can have a different favorite child tomorrow. It's fine.
That's very true. Try Metic Ballsier. On page
Yeah.
49. That's
So we'll get Metic pulled up here so everyone can see a little example of what we've got going on. So we're just gonna look at his first page here. Yeah, I know, I do. It's like, do you want to save something with the same name you just saved something with? Yeah, so that it flips in my OBS. Thank you. So we've got Metig here, and he's designed by
yep.
Holly Wake.
And
Um,
it is non-binary. This particular one
oh, yep,
is the they them pronouns.
that's true,
Um,
and which is right there in the quick guide. So we've got Metig here, and they, and we also have the pronunciation guide so that you don't mess up Metig's name. Uh,
as often as you can, but yeah, I enjoyed this one. Was designed by myself and Holly Wake, the aforementioned accessibility coordinator. Also wrote three of these as well. She was part of the much bigger team that went into writing these 25. And Metig is interesting because we I love other planes. I love interplanar stories.
mm-hmm.
And essentially, the really Cliff Notes version of this particular NPC is that Metig um, opened a spa called the Earthen Lather, which has incredible mud baths, which are essentially sourced from um, dust that comes out of a crack into the elemental plane of earth, which is beneath their establishment. And
Oh.
so they essentially use the earthen lather to make a lot of money, but the particular stuff that they retrieve from this portal is able to be manufactured into an illicit drug, which the dwarf has built a entire criminal empire using earth and lather as a front. And so this is something which you can even turn your goofy spa day kind of session off story in your campaign into something that's really interesting because your party is interacting with a circumstance where there's actually something uh slightly addictive about these mud baths. And now all of a sudden, as they're leaving the town, they feel like they want to go back. And it can create some really interesting story opportunities off of a circumstance which is usually trying to get you away from story opportunities. So just we're just going to go to the spa for this session. It's just
Oh,
it,
there's a. Oh gosh, is it Candlekeep? I think it's Candlekeep. There's one that revolves around a spa too, and I
Mhm.
love like the kinds of things that you could do there. And like spas like have so much opportunity for like, um, you know, illicit undertakings because it's place of privacy and like what's really going on here, like who knows.
Mhm.
Um, in that particular one, um, there's a kidnapping and everything, and then you go there and I don't know what everyone else's character did there, but I went there and got my ass beat. Hopefully, hopefully at this spa, um, my character would come out perhaps with an overwhelming sense of calm and happiness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
And
Yeah.
you've even created some mechanics for the illicit drug known as soot. You've got some plot hooks here. You talk a bit about their dark secret. So these are the first two pages of Medic, and as everyone can see, who's been looking at it, aside from the soot mechanics, which can really be easily modified, we still don't have any mechanics. We're 2 pages into this NPC, and we're just talking about them.
Yeah, every one has kind of the same format. They have an introduction to themselves, and they have their public persona, so just a blurb about who they are in their community,
Mm-hmm.
and then a big list about their dark secret, as you mentioned, and then a breakdown of their personality or other trait, and then finally other traits that they have, and that's coupled with any relevant mechanics or magic items that they have, or
Or their
as well as
lair.
yeah, or yeah, layer or plot hooks for bringing them into the story, and then finally their actual stat block itself. But
Yeah. And so, inside of this book, you've got mechanics for various stuff that you can use. I mean, you don't have to use Medig to use soot or to reskin soot as a, illicit drug somewhere else somehow. Um, but, so you've got, all this glorious story. You've got the whole bathhouse thing going on. You've got all of a sudden, you've got the concept of what comes through a rift from the elemental plane of Earth, and then that sets you thinking on, well, what comes through a rift from the elemental plane of air?
mm.
Is it helium? Do we all talk funny of air?
Is that where helium comes from in D&D? Is a rift in the elemental plane of air is the source of the helium factory?
Yeah. So, it gives you just like not only a lot of great stuff about these particular characters, but like little things that really just kind of like get your gears turning and you're like, "Oh, well, neat." And that was actually I did read a bit more of this than I did of the adventure. That was one of the things I really liked about this particular product is, you can use it so many ways. You can just open it up and grab some stat blocks. Here's some villagers. Or, you could just have it handy. You're in a village, as players do. Who's in the bar with us? Just grab people
Mm.
just based on their portraits, and then they're like, all right, well, what's the story of the sketchy looking person at the bar? He is no longer Boblin the Goblin.
Nothing wrong with Bob the Goblin, but
Boblin the Goblin has a complex life story that nobody ever asks him about, okay?
and we tried to facilitate, because if you look at each individual release, or each individual person, there's no identifying information to exactly what town they're in. It tells you oftentimes what type of town, or where they're located at in the town, or their role in the town, but it doesn't say this person is from Waterdeep, or this person is from the 10th district in Ravnica. It doesn't give you a specific place that you then have to go through and change all these things to fit it into your homebrew setting, or whatever story you happen to be telling in the Forgotten Realms or whatever. It's just something that you can just drop in, which again, it's all about making storytelling easier,
Yeah,
and
they've kind
hopefully
of
it
they've
does
kind
that.
of got their roles, and you can take those roles and pretty much place them wherever. So, you know, um I mean, we've kind of talked through this a little bit, but obviously, um, one of the things that I like to talk about on this show is, of course, how does everyone approach design? Obviously, you approach it from a bit more of the narrative point of view, but okay, cool. So you start with the story, but where do you get your story ideas from? You're sitting there, you've got um, your figurative blank piece of paper, or maybe a real blank piece of paper. I don't know.
For
Depends
me,
on.
it's the Google Docs app on my phone is
Yeah.
is where all of my ideas go. Um,
Like, where do
but
you draw your inspiration from? Pop culture, literature, music?
I, there's not a
Shh, shh.
single
I
a
mean, yeah, it
single
could be all of
yeah,
them.
yeah, there's not a single one. It comes from lots of different places. um and it usually just starts as a general spark, as I mentioned. I'm a builder. I start with a basic idea, and then just build out until I have a concept, and then until we have an entire product, we just start
Yeah.
layering stuff on top of people, on top of things, with until we have an entire Jenga tower built. um
Like for Disaster Hamsters, it started with,
yeah,
Disaster and Hamster kind of sound the same.
yeah. Yeah, it legitimately did. I was thinking of interesting products and thinking of it would be cool to play as an animal, and apart from being a druid
Yes.
and well, disaster and hamsters kind of, and it just blossomed from there. um so it typically just starts with an idea, and oftentimes it's an idea which there's a dearth of in the content space,
Hmm.
just like with there's not a lot of disaster hamster type adventures out there. There's not a lot of villagers like product out there. We did another product called Sentient, which is all about sentient items, but almost all sentient item releases, they're like 95% sentient weapons. And so what we did was we made a sentient items, only one of which was a weapon in the entire release. They're all like a sentient keg, a sentient D6. So it's like it's
I'd go for a sentient candlestick. Hello,
yeah.
hello. Candle's getting a little short. Do you want to live in the dark over here? Top me off.
Yeah, yeah. There's all sorts of hilarious things you can do by just making a random object sentient, and that so you we try to find concepts which um
Oh, Beauty and the Beast can go
are
on about that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Just there's opportunity there to tell something that no one has ever told before, and just we really just build with that concept and just keep putting stuff on and throwing stuff against the wall, and working together as a team, and eventually it all just comes together. It's not any one specific process. It is just a process that's full of hard work and communication. And as long as you have those two things, I think you could pretty much do any product as long as you're communicating with your entire team and working together as you end up
Have
making stuff.
thought occurred to me. Have you, as a team, considered creating products based on a team constructed Mad Libs? Because I think it'd go great.
We have not. No, that would certainly be very interesting. Absolutely. Set the thought wheels a turning.
Yeah, yeah. Just give everyone a piece of paper. Be like, you write down 5 verbs. You get 5 adjectives.
Yep.
You.
Yeah.
No, no, it's fine. No theme. Just do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
um.
We'll come up with some crazy ideas.
Yeah. No, I actually I did a podcast once where it was very Mad Libs. We designed a whole adventure complete with, the villain, the weird magic item, the henchman, the location. And it was, oh boy, it got weird fast. It was great. My
That's awesome.
goal when we started the episode was, okay, I've had a friend who's been on here. You got it up on the website now because they also do, whoops, like a single page. They illustrate the thing that we've designed live. Uh, his had gone up, and I was like, I just want mine to be weirder than that.
That's awesome. No,
uh,
that's great. I mean, sometimes that's all you need, even if you don't end up where you started.
I
Just
had no idea
starting
where we were going.
yeah. Well, it just, I mean, like literally, you could start off with the idea like disaster and hamsters work, and then you can iterate on that concept and feel like, oh, the hamsters doesn't really work. Like I'm not liking these mechanics, and end up in some totally different direction. But as long as you start and just start building on stuff,
Hmm.
then you're eventually going to end up in a place by just hard work and good communication, and you're going to
Yeah.
build something together, and it's going to
And
be awesome.
you can even come around on variations of that. So you've obviously gotten with, when you came up with your words, disaster hamster. There's been a disaster, and somehow you are a hamster. This could have just it could have been instead all along. You're just awakened hamsters. You've always been
Yep.
awakened hamsters. And there's been a disaster unrelated to you being hamsters, and somehow the only people in the world that can solve this disaster are you, the chosen hamsters. So, like, obviously, there were from those two words, like, that's two options, and I'm
Yeah.
sure somebody listening is like, I've got a third and a fourth.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And yeah, so I think, honestly, like you said, having that collaboration of, I've got the idea, I'm just gonna throw it out here, everybody, and let's all just shout out some ideas, and we'll take what works, and we'll refine it, and we'll make it into uh, we've woken up as hamsters. We're in a lab. We got to figure out how we got here. How do we get out of here? How do we get back in our bodies? Honey, we shrunk
Hmm.
the kids.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and so as you said, it was a lot of teamwork, and I'm sure a lot of people coming up with the, okay, so we're tiny. All right, so that person I assume was like, maybe somebody did draw inspiration from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. All right, so when you're tiny, here's some problems that come up. Or
Hmm.
maybe they were just used to being short. Can you get that for me? It's not on the top shelf. Yeah, can't reach that one either. Thanks.
Nope, nope.
I'm aware. It's third shelf down. Still can't reach it.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you were talking about disaster hamsters, I mean, just the scale was so, we had to essentially rework the D&D mechanics, and the way that we came up with doing it in the first disaster hamsters was we essentially just converted feet to inches. Is essentially ended up what we ended up doing with it, because it was the easiest way of converting most things over without changing a bunch of stuff.
Hmm.
um and so your like speed is 30 inches or 40 inches depending on what your class is,
I feel.
and it's like, so it's really interesting. I mean,
I feel like
it
that's pretty
causes you to think.
realistic.
Yeah, well, one thing, because it's there's a reason hamsters run on a wheel. They can actually run like 6 miles a night, which is like insane for something that's that small. I
Yeah,
feel like that
they
might be.
have they have endurance though.
Yes,
It's not
that's true.
it's not speed, it's endurance.
That's true. It's Gimli. The dwarfs are not natural sprinters. They're dangerous over the long distances. So
Yes. Oh, I had forgotten that. Yeah. No, that's good. Um as opposed to gnomes,
Yes.
who like, you better be far away from me as soon as you make me mad, because I can get over there really quick. But if I need to go somewhere far away, maybe we'll just stay home and deal with it tomorrow. It's fine. It's fine. Um, yeah. Um, so you've got four things out on the DM's Guild, and we mentioned a little bit in the intro that you've got a new product, a new disaster hamsters actually, coming out soon via Kickstarter. So this is gonna be your first Kickstarter. Are you super excited about that?
Excited and nervous. Yes, yes,
All
both of those
right.
things are true. We've
So
been
how's it
getting our
going?
well, so far so good. We've been getting our feet wet for a long time. I mean, in addition to just all of our written content with the DMs Guild and stuff, there's stuff that we do uh, every. There's at least one release every week on our Patreon, which we do. There's like usually like several a month of just various things that we release on there, from Overheard, Relics, that all sorts of different series that we do. So we were just been kind of getting our feet wet for this whole time, building up to where we could branch out into selling things on Drive Through RPG, and do things outside of the more easier to get into DM's Guild and stuff like that, using that license. So we eventually just got ready to start the Kickstarter, and what better place to start than with our most successful product that we've ever launched, in terms of the excitement that it's garnished, and with actual sales and disaster hamsters. So we built out our whole team. Our team is
Amazing.
huge. Yeah, we have a writing team of myself, Willie Abil, Aaron Catano Saez, Ken Hart, Holly Wake, and Star Shinobi are all back. Kat Kruger, Colette Kwok, Austin Knight, Ashton Duncan is our editor. We've got Chloe Bolin and Nick Galvin are our cartographers. We got four artists that are coming in, including Dire Quest, who's done the amazing cover of Disaster Hamsters 2, and is kind of reprising his role with as the hamster art. Um, we were able to get an additional consultant this time around, doing sensitivity in addition to Holly doing the accessibility. So we've got a whole team that is ready and raring to go on this thing. We've already developed some stuff, but really we're just kind of just waiting to get the Kickstarter going, which launches on January 4th. The pre-launch page is up already. You can go follow
Yes.
it and click notify me whenever that goes live, and you'll be notified. The trailer is up on YouTube and all over our social media. So we've got everything rolling. It's just a matter of getting ready to, because whenever you're talking about a product that's so large, because we're anticipating this being between 150 and 200 pages, about 100,000 words, and that's just the base without hitting any stretch goals.
Hmm.
And so when you're talking about something like that, when you're talking about what we try to do as far as, paying people fairly, you're talking about just, with writing, you want to pay people at least 10 cents a word. And so you're talking about a writing budget itself of just at least $10,000. And so this is, a pretty large Kickstarter.
In a world where heroes stand,
Produce the versions, produce the accessible versions, pay all the writers, pay all the artists, but we're trying. We're going to try to get there as hard as we can. It's going
Yeah.
to be an awesome story. There's not just an adventure that's more one or two shotty like the first Disaster Hamsters is.
It's gonna go 1 to 3. It levels 1 to 3.
Level 1 to 3, with an option of extending it to 4 and greater. It's also going to if we can, we're going to try to include a one shot as well, just for people who just want to just jump in and play a one shot.
Just be some hamsters for a minute.
Yeah. It's got a massive campaign setting, which is 100-mile diameter area with 5 artificial biomes, with and that's the bulk of the book, is just a campaign setting, which is unlike in the first Disaster Hamsters, where you are hamsters in a human world trying to escape. Here you are in a sentient animal world. Everything is built by the animals. Everything is animal sized. You are just literally in a giant nature preserve, interacting with where everybody is just an animal. And so plus all sorts of updated mechanics and stuff for all this garbage too. So
Oh man, so
it's
you know what? So you know what this sounds like? It sounds like you could tie it into, if you for some reason don't want to be a hamster, you could grab like other awakened animal stuff, like the Animal Adventures stuff. You could take your hamsters into the Animal Adventures world and vice versa. Bring in your awakened fox.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody really cool designed that.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I mean, we have stuff all the way up to like foxes and dogs is about the biggest that we get. I mean, we have things all the way from I'm currently was updating a flea stat block for a trio of flea pickpockets named Fleonardo, Fleabee, and Fleali. So there's things all the way from fleas all the way up to
You don't have one called Fleon?
No, there's so many good ones. What you just look at the ones that have like E sounds at the beginning of their names, and it's just like there's so many of them.
I've got like
It's like there could be a whole troop.
4 or 5. I've got like a handful of friends named Leon, and I'm like, I think they all would really appreciate that joke. Leon, what if suddenly you were a flea? Get it? Fleon.
Well, maybe I'll trade Fleali for Fleon.
I don't know. Fleela's pretty good too. There's really no bad name. So we're getting kind of near to the end of our time, and so when we wrap this, everybody, before I cut to the actual credits, I am going to show you that Disaster Hamsters 2 promo trailer. So hold on to your pants, guys, it's coming. But before we get to that, do you have anything else going on that you want to share with people? Any other thoughts just in general about like narrative design, stuff you want to share, doing your first Kickstarter, or finding all these amazing people to work with? How does
it's it's hard to assess when you're in the middle of stuff because things are moving so fast and so quickly that it's hard to really analyze until it's past. um as my dog comes over here, the it's
Ours is asleep.
yeah, she just wanted to be closer, so she moved to the couch that was right next to me instead of being on the couch that was far away. So um
Mine can't lay on the couch. It's 2 feet further away than his current position on the floor.
um but yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing with any of this stuff to me is just doing it.
Hmm.
There's lots of fear when it comes to everything with tabletop role playing games. People don't want to get into the hobby at all because it takes a certain amount of vulnerability to enter
Oh,
into role playing with a group of people. It takes a certain amount of people that around you that you trust in order to be able to be in that space
right.
and feel safe. And it takes a certain amount of uh work to be able to get into actually creating things and sharing it with the world. And but ultimately we're all the better for sharing our stories with each other.
Absolutely.
And that includes the stories which are not our own stories but our own stories that we create. And it's not gonna be any skin off my teeth the more
Yeah.
competition that I have. The more
I
stories
like
that are out there the better.
Yeah, I like so a lot of people like get really personal about like their stories. I like to think of our stories like, yeah, it's our baby. We brought it into the world, but the entire village raises it, and what it becomes isn't just my decision. So, everybody come help raise these babies, these stories. They
Yeah.
need to grow up and become things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole hobby is so collaborative, which is what makes
Yes.
it so good. It's not just collaboration within your play group, it's collaboration within wherever that happens to go if you put that product out into the wild. I mean, there was a great story with the first disaster hamster. Somebody did something that I had never thought
And
of.
it's
It
just
was
like
essentially like a Pinky in the Brain thing. He played a warlock where he was essentially Pinky and his patron was essentially the brain. And it was just like, this is amazing. And it's just like, this is a story that I had not come up with that is just brilliant and hilarious and fun to watch.
oh
And
yeah,
that
so
was
you're Pinky, call up your patron. What are we gonna do tonight? Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
great.
Oh, hold on. Instructions unclear. How do I do that?
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
really. I think that's a great point, and I think there's a lot of fear, but like you said, um, the best first step is do the thing,
Hmm. Do the thing.
do the
Do the
thing,
thing.
do the
Yeah.
thing.
But
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your week to come on and chat. This has been an absolute delight. So thank you, Samuel, for coming on. And
absolutely.
so do you want to tell everyone before we cut to this amazing trailer, where they can find you online, where they can find your stuff, where they can collaborate with you if you've got a space for
Sure.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just look us up on social media at Plot Hooks. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where it's the same handle and everywhere. Um, you'll find all the links to everything there, from our Patreon, where we do most of our written content, to our products that we've done on the DM's Guild, to our Kickstarter, obviously, to our podcast. So easiest thing is to just go to Twitter, find me at Plot Hooks.
Yeah.
and,
All
and you'll
right.
find all of our stuff there.
All right. Well, and of course, everyone, you can find me as always on the internet under at Jenny Loveday. I'm gonna repeat this for like 6 or 7 episodes because I'm so excited about it. You can find me on all of the social medias now. I've finally gotten my YouTube sorted, so it's just my name on the internet. Everybody, I'm so gosh darn excited. But yeah. So I've got yeah. I I've got guests lined up. I do. I did not open my notebook and do not have them all on my calendar, so I am not going to tell you who they are at present. But they exist. So
They exist and they're awesome.
It'll be a surprise. We will not be airing an episode the week following this. So that is on the 26th, the day after Christmas, Boxing Day. The day when we all lie around and celebrate with family and eat more food that we definitely didn't need to eat that we didn't eat the day before. And
because we didn't overeat the day before.
Yeah.
We have to overeat now.
And tell everyone thank you 18 million times for all of the amazing things that they've given us, whether that be material or otherwise. I know we just did the thanking on Thanksgiving, but we're doing it again. Gosh darn it.
Oh yeah. Every day.
Every day. On Christmas Day and the Christmas day after Christmas, though, it is definitely me 20 times thanking my mom for it's always one sweater or one something that she got me where I'm just like, this is better than anything I ever imagined. This is the best sweater I've ever seen in my life, Mom.
That's awesome.
I love you. But anyways, on that cheery note, that will be it for this episode of The Designer's Den. Until next time, everyone, enjoy this Disaster Hamsters trailer. Bye-bye.
In a world where heroes stand tall,
What the heck is that supposed to mean?
oh,
And we're gonna restart that because it was zoomed in way too far and you couldn't see the whole thing. Sorry.
in a world where heroes stand tall,
What the heck is that supposed to mean?
oh, sorry. Play as adorable hamsters in Disaster Hamsters 2, an epic TTRPG book designed for 5th edition.
It's more fun than you can stuff your cheeks with.
The book has 3 parts.
Ta-da!
Everything you'll need to play as a hamster in 5th edition.
Ta-da!
A whole sanctuary full of adorable sentient animals for your hamsters to explore.
Ta-da! Hold up! Adventure? I'm so confused. How am I even talking right now? I have so many questions.
The nefarious scientist Jerry Hilliard has perfected the of creating sentient hamsters. Now, for a final test, he's dropped his experiments into the sanctuary to see how they fare. Not only must they survive, but they must also defeat the tyrannical kitty Snuggles to escape to freedom.
This is awesome!
We need your support for Disaster Hamsters 2 to happen. We'd love to have you on the team.